This is our large Newtonian reflector telescope. It's one of the largest we have. We have three 16-inch telescopes. The thing that's unique about this one is that it's the oldest telescope we have. Actually, it's evolved over the years. Back when the Des Moines Astronomical Society was formed, the members put together a large telescope with a 16-inch mirror that looked a lot like this, and then from there on they built from it. They bought new tube, then they would buy a new mirror, then they'd buy new fixtures for it, and ultimately they bought the mounting for it. I think it's repurposed from the university, from Iowa State University. So over the years this has had three different mirrors, had new body, new rotating rings, and recently we adapted it to a computerized location drive. So this is a small computer that actually, once you set it up, you can then tell it where you want to go, and it tells you which direction to move the telescope, and then you can center it on, and then the telescope will track with the motor drives that are in here. So it's really quite modern, but a very old telescope and excellent optics. Actually, the mirror on this telescope, which is back here, is only about 20 years old, so it's fairly modern, and we take it out to clean it once in a while, but it takes two people to handle it. It's that large, so the mirror is in there. This is a different kind of mount again, in that it's a fork mount, but it's equatorial, so that this axis points directly at the north celestial pole, and then as it tracks across the sky, the drive moves the fork, and so the telescope is quite balanced. So when it's on an object, it will normally move toward the west with its motor drive, and so it will follow the object in the sky. So the telescope is very well balanced, and it's one of our favorites, really. People like it. It's huge. It's difficult to get at. Sometimes people have to get up clear on the step to look through the telescope up here, because this is the reflector again. These domes are, I think they were put in the late 90s. They are a commercial dome. They're 14 feet. They rotate. They're powered, and so they can turn so you can see anywhere in the sky, and it's really a nice addition. The original domes were silo domes, and they didn't work so well, but they were a good start for the observatory. We can go to the next dome if you like. It's important that a telescope be on a steady base, and so when these were built, this is a solid 30-inch concrete beam, and it goes clear up to here where it joins a pier. But these are below the frost line, so I think the piers, these concrete piers, are 12 feet tall, so that far in the ground to make sure they're steady. And interestingly, if somebody comes in and slams the front door when you're looking through the telescope still vibrates, because the ground around here vibrates. But it's very stable, and they don't move very much with changing temperatures. So when we came this morning, this telescope hasn't been run for quite a few weeks because the observatory has not been open. But there's one object that is visible, and that's the moon. So it's a very last part. It's 25 days old, but so I set it to the moon, and then because the moon moves at a different rate than the stars, it creeps a little bit, but I can show you, and you can take a quick look in the eyepiece. I have the moon centered in the eyepiece right now, and I adjusted it with this hand control. So the thing that's unique about this telescope is that it's totally computer controlled. So when you start it up, you go through a routine to align it, and then beyond that you just key in the object you want it to go to, and it goes to that object usually, and it will follow that object for the whole night, several hours at a time. And as you probably know, the Earth moves the equivalent of about 1 degree every 4 minutes, so that the telescope is constantly moving toward the west as the Earth moves toward the east. This also is a compound telescope optically. This one happens to be a Schmidt Cassegrain. I told you about a Maxitoff downstairs just to confuse you a little bit. This happens to be a 14-inch telescope, and we just installed it last year to replace a 16-inch telescope that had become quite worn, and optically it wasn't as sharp as it should be. So we had this telescope in the small dome outside, and it's superior optically, so we decided to mount it here. This is also an equatorial mount, so you'll notice that the axis goes right directly toward the North Celestial Pole, which is close to the North Star. So all you need to do to find another object is key it into the hand control and push go to, and as I said, most of the time it'll be right in the center or close to the center of the eyepiece. So this is a mount that DMAS bought back in, I think it was 20 years ago now, and it's also being worn, and we're looking to try to replace it with a more modern mount, but they're very expensive, so we're trying to raise some money. But anyway, this is a very nice setup, and optically it's very nice, and people are always impressed, as am I, when you can just tell the telescope to go find the moon and it does it for you. So these domes, again, they do rotate, and all we need to do is, if we're going to a different place in the sky, all we need to do is to push this little lever, and there goes the dome. And also the shutter up on top is motorized, and we can close that when we close up for the night. So this is the Schmidt Cassegrain telescope, a combination of refracting, correcting lenses, and mirrors.